welcome to WoW Can Cook. My name is Tracee and I'm here with Dr. Gloria, who chose the recipe for the week called Korean beef bowls. Hi, Dr. Gloria.
Hello. Hey, this is fun. I can write the recipes, I can test them, and you have to do the work. That's a new one for me. I usually have to get a prep cook and somebody to help me with all of the cooking, and then somebody to clean up. You're going to do it all. This is great.
This is fun. So, Gloria, why did you pick this recipe for the week?
Well, I picked it because I love Korean food. I've been to South Korea, have eaten in some of the best Korean restaurants, and I always tried to duplicate it and couldn't get it. You know, that flavor that you'd like, oh my gosh, I want more of it. And I just couldn't get it. It was too salty, it was too bland, too sweet. And a friend of mine a long time ago gave me a recipe from her Korean grandmother. But it had all the foods that I don't recommend, all the ingredients that ignite inflammation, chili peppers and all of that. So I had to reinvent the recipe, but used her basic one. And that's how I came up with it. And when we have it, or when I've served it in my cooking classes, they're all going like, can I have some more sauce? Maybe a little bit more on my rice, or maybe a little bit. I put it on mashed potatoes. I love it on everything. So that's why I created it, because as you know, that's my specialty, creating recipes or adapting them so that they don't have ingredients that ignite inflammation. And this one is amazing. So please make it exactly as we wrote it, that I will guide you, and then you can experiment. If it's a little bit too sweet, you can add a little bit more vinegar or whatever your taste buds are asking for, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So what do I do first?
Okay, the very first thing you do is you should get a little bit of warm water and start dissolving the cornstarch.
I don't use cornstarch. So can I please use potato starch?
No, not on my recipes.
Guar gum. I just don't have cornstarch. I don't buy it. So can I use one of these instead?
Absolutely. You can use guar gum, or you can use arrowroot, which is what I use instead of cornstarch a lot of times.
I thought I had some, but I don't. So how much?
So use 2 tablespoons of that. So for all of our members watching, you can use any of these. The 2 that I use is cornstarch or arrowroot. I haven't used guar gum, but let's see how it works out. It should be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Dissolve
let's talk about that. Cornstarch. Okay. Did you find non-GMO organic cornstarch?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
That's the only reason I do it. But yes, because corn is one of the worst. You're right. I mean, you spray it with more and all that. But sometimes when I couldn't find it, I figured, 2 tablespoons in a big recipe is not going to be life-threatening if you do it occasionally. Cook with it every day, yes. So show us what you're doing. You should be just dissolving that. Is that a little bit of warm water?
Yeah, I added some warm water, but it's very gelatinous. Like, look.
See, no, that's not the way the cornstarch. So go ahead and use potato starch if you want, but I don't advocate it because it induces inflammation. It's potatoes.
Well, how about if I just add more water to try to thin this out?
That's fine. Let's try that. When the beef starts cooking and you add everything else, just add it a little less than you normally would until we see how it thickens. That's a good experiment. We see how it thickens. And then if it's thickening too much, you won't add any more, or we can just dilute it. This is why cooking is fun. For me, it's therapy.
I love cooking. And I'm a wing-iter in the kitchen. I wing it all the time. So
I don't wing it the first time I do a recipe if I'm modifying or creating a new one. But after that, I wing it. But I do take copious notes. And I encourage everybody watching to take copious notes, like, this was great, but a little too salty, or next time I better use cornstarch or arrowroot because this got too thick, whatever. But make a note of it. You won't remember, trust me. Every time I thought I would, I didn't. And then I had to start all over to experiment. So go ahead and
suggest to the members is use cornstarch, but find a non-GMO organic cornstarch, and then just use the 2 tablespoons with a little bit of water. Okay, what's next?
Okay, the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and dissolve the bouillon. Now you've got the bouillon that I showed, right?
Just one
It's
cube?
not, no, use 2 cubes.
Okay,
Use
and
2
how much
cubes.
water?
And so this is called not beef. And in the recipe, there'll be a link for it. You can find it in some local stores. I have nothing to do with the company. Whenever we recommend something, it's because we know it works and it doesn't have a lot of ugly ingredients. It's non-GMO, it's gluten-free, all of that. So this is called not beef. They also have, let me show you, Tracee. They also have savory onion. They have not chicken. Whoops, where's my screen? Not chicken. And then they have garden veggie. So what these are is the only bouillon cubes I have ever found, and they're made in Germany, they're imported, that don't have all the nasty stuff like monosodium glutamate and all the other ugly things that they add to it. So dissolve 2 of them in some warm water, use about a cup, because that's a lot of bouillon, and it's salty. So we're going to use some salty soy sauce, gluten-free. So we're going to make sure that we don't overdo it.
Okay, so
And that's
one
where
cup of warm water with 2 cubes of bouillon.
two cubes. If you're making a full pound, sometimes I just make a half a pound, so then I use 1 cube. It is delicious. And when it says not beef, if you cook a beef and then, you know, save the bouillon, make the broth, it tastes the same as this, but this doesn't have any beef in it. It's a vegetarian bouillon company.
What's it made out of?
Well, I'll tell you. It is made, and everything's organic, so I'm not going to repeat it. It's sea salt, shea butter, yeast extract, organic cane sugar, organic chicory, onion, celery, porcini mushroom, garlic, and mace. That's it.
Okay, well, it's almost dissolved. What's next?
Okay, so now do you have your beef in the skillet?
Yes, it's all cooked.
Okay. Okay, so normally you would be sauteing the beef with onion and garlic. So have you done that, or did you?
Okay, so I saw that you said to cook the beef, but I made the mistake, and please don't make this mistake, listeners. Read your directions before you begin. So then I chopped the onion in my food processor, and I squeezed the garlic using this amazing garlic press from Pampered Chef, which I really recommend. Now, my son is a purist, and he will only use a knife when he cooks. He chops everything. He refuses to use kitchen tools. I love tools. So I'm going to
I have every tool too. And you're going to do what now? Those are the onions that you chopped in the food. That's what I do, right? So you chopped them in the food processor. And you're going to saute the onions and garlic now.
In the meat.
In the meat.
Yeah.
The meat's already cooked. You don't do it that way. But if you the best thing to do is just saute the onions and the garlic in a large pan, and then you add the ground beef, and make sure you keep crumbling it with a wooden spoon so that you break it apart. You know how it can get together.
Okay, so in the directions it said heat a large skillet or a medium-high heat, now the ground beef. Cook and crumble for 3 to 5 minutes. Then add the onions and garlic.
And the garlic.
Until the beef is cooked. So with that said, should I saute the onions and garlic in a separate pan and then combine them?
You should. If you're doing it, yes. If you're doing it the right way, you should do it. Because you're going to be cooking the beef. Okay, so you're going to spray. What are you spraying now?
Avocado oil spray.
Okay. Yeah, I could see the avocado.
Whoops. I'm going to move the onions and garlic into the pan to saute them, and then I'll combine them with the beef.
That's the way to do it. And it takes about, you have a gas stove, so it takes less, but usually it's about 6 minutes. It can be up to 8. Make sure the beef is well cooked, not dry, just well cooked. Does your beef have a lot of grease, Tracee, or is it something you have to pour off or not?
No, I actually use ground bison that I get from Costco, and I use it because bison is protected and it's not treated like cows. So there's no like hormones and pesticides,
nothing.
and it's natural, all clean.
And
And
you're so right. It's the cleanest ground meat, red meat you can find.
And my
Yeah.
buffalo that I buy is very moist and tender. It's more tender than ground beef. So it's a
Right,
win-win
okay.
for me. And
Right.
so that's what I usually, and there's never any grease.
No, and actually I was sharing with you the other day that when I was in North Idaho, one of the biggest buffalo ranches is in North Idaho. So I used to buy it right from the butcher. And they always made a big thing about the fact that it's the purest red meat. And yes, Costco is where I got it when I left North Idaho. But sometimes it would be where I had to add a little bit of coconut oil or avocado oil because it happened to be drier. Other times it was like you're saying. I think it just depends on the time of year that they slaughter. But buffalo are protected. Native Americans have protected it, and God bless them. So we don't have to worry about all that.
I mean, I've never had it be tough. It's always tender.
It's always tender. And if you can ever find somebody that is a buffalo rancher and they sell their meat, I used to buy huge steaks from them and roast, and they would cut it for me enough for like 2 people, and I would freeze it. They're delicious. They're expensive, but they're really good.
Oh, that's a good idea. I'll have to try that. I
just find a
bought some buffalo steaks at the grocery store one time, and they turned out good. I want to add while we're doing this is that I prefer, and I'm sure you'll agree, I cook with cast iron and stainless steel only.
Right. Sometimes I use ceramic coated, but not always. It's just a cast iron. Yeah.
So what can I do while this is cooking?
Okay, while that's cooking, you're going to let that just like saute. Don't let them burn, but get them nice and sauteed so that the onions and garlic start having that beautiful aroma that they have. And then it's about 3 to 5 minutes or so. And then remove from the heat. Garnish with your sesame seeds or toppings. And do you have green onions or scallions, or what are you going to put in it? Then let's make the sauce. While that's cooking, let's make the sauce. Now you don't have any specific way to do it. Just get a big glass bowl. I use a 4-cup glass measuring cup, and then I'll tell you what to mix in it.
I'm not quite as fast as you.
You haven't done it for as many years as I have. And by the way, I love the chef's hat. Thank you for humoring us.
When my kids were little and they would have, like, I was the one that put on the teacher's luncheons, I would dress up in costume all the time. And I would even fake an accent to go along with my costume.
That's our Tracee.
My green onions.
Okay, just chop it fine. You're going to use that as a garnish. You're not going to saute it because you've already got the yellow onion sauteing with the garlic.
Okay.
So you're going to just
do I need all of these or just a little?
No. If you've got a pound, you put as much as you like. And I'm going to remind our members, a recipe is a guide. It is not, cut in stone. So if you don't like, I don't like raw green onions. My body just resents it. And that's when I always say body talk never lies. Listen to your body. I get heartburn with raw onions, but if I have chives, which is still an onion, I don't have that problem. So I usually garnish with a little bit of chopped chives. So whatever you want, but try to stick to the recipe, especially the sauce, exactly the way it's written the first time. And then you can adjust. Less salt, more salt, not as much sweet. So we're going to make the sauce next, and then you're going to just dump it all together. That's how easy it is.
Okay, let me just combine the meat and the onions, and I'll be right back. So you can entertain them.
I can entertain them. Okay, I'll entertain all of you. I just want you to remember that the reason that I am so dedicated, I could say adamant, but dedicated to writing and adapting recipes that have any ingredients that ignite inflammation doesn't mean that people like Tracee, I'm going to use her as an example. When she and I discussed this quite a while ago, she said, "Oh my God, what am I going to do with all my gorgeous tomatoes in my garden?" Tracee doesn't have any inflammation. At least it's not manifesting. So if she doesn't have inflammation, she's one of the 5% that I've worked with out of thousands of people, probably 100,000 now, that doesn't have inflammation. If you have gum disease, if you have high blood pressure, fibromyalgia, arthritis, chronic fatigue, gout, you have inflammation. So it's not going to give it to you if you use hot peppers. I just gave Tracee a recipe and said, put your hot peppers in it. Remember the one yesterday? So the reason that I really, really teach that is because I'm a victim of that. And having had not only leaky gut, but one of the worst cases of fibromyalgia, the only way that I could overcome it, no matter what supplement I took, no matter what else I did, got rid of gluten, everything else, was to get rid of the nightshades. But don't think that everybody 100% has to get rid of nightshades. Tracee is an exception, but I only find there's about 5% of people that can be the kind that can eat nightshades. Okay, so go ahead. Where's your beef and your onions and your, did it all combined?
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Okay, it's all combined. Now let's mix the sauce, and you're just going to dump the sauce in it. It's that simple.
Okay, and let me add something. My guess is that most of the people come to you they're ailing, they are unwell. And
absolutely.
So that's why I think your percentage is only 5%. Okay, so that you find that 95% need to be off nightshades, because if they are healthy like me, normally they probably aren't seeking your wisdom because they feel great. So
you're absolutely right. But remember something, there's invisible inflammation.
Right.
There's people that may not have inflammation, but they have hypertension, or they have gallbladder and liver issues, or they have, well, gout is inflammation, but diabetes. And they have issues with diabetes, and they're blaming it on the diabetes, not realizing that they have to stop eating foods that ignite it. So you're correct. I mean, people come to me because they want help. They've already got issues.
Yeah.
But it's just, you have to try it. And if you're going to do it, avoid nightshades for 6 to 8 weeks completely, and then go back and eat what you're craving. If you want a baked potato, have a baked potato and see what happens. You'll know. It'll be 24 to 48 hours, and you'll know.
But
That's
you'll
the best
know
test.
after you eliminate it, because if you just eat potato,
Exactly.
potato, you know, then
no, you have to eliminate it. Right.
So,
right.
Okay,
so
I'm ready.
It's the elimination diet. Okay, you got a 4 cup. So now put the 1 cup of the beef broth that you dissolved
in here.
In there. And if you have extra sauce, you'll love it. So just use it on something else, even on steamed vegetables. I love it that way. Now you're going to add the cornstarch that you dissolved.
Okay, we got a problem here. So
we
how
have
about
a
if
big problem here?
Of it?
Yeah, you better, because it's going to be, yeah, we just want it to get thick. We don't care. So just go ahead. If you want to use potato starch, hon, go ahead. You're not allergic to potatoes. See?
Right. But I already made this. I hate to. Let's see if it works.
Then just go ahead and.
Okay. But all you listeners, please don't do what Tracee did. Go out and some organic,
get the organic cornstarch or arrowroot. Arrowroot is fine, and it's easy to find.
I thought I had arrowroot.
So,
but
okay.
Couldn't find it.
Can you whip it a little to dissolve it, maybe?
Maybe I should get a whisk.
You might have to put it. Yeah. And you may have to put it on the stove in order to get it to dissolve. Normally, I don't have to. I just dump it in with the meat mixture. It'll dissolve anyway, Tracee. Don't worry about it. Once it goes in, it's going to dissolve when it gets hot. Did it dissolve? Did it dissolve?
A little bit.
Yeah, so. Okay, so now add your 1/4 cup of soy sauce, and I like having the Bragg's amino acids. And that's very salty. So remember, everyone, if you haven't used that, and you're using the bouillon cubes as well, which you need to, unless you're making homemade beef broth, test the salt. Don't salt anything until it's done. Now you need 2 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. You can use a natural brown sugar substitute, or I know you don't use sugar, but we can't eliminate all of it. So there are some natural sugars. I don't like the natural ones, but because they have xylitol, and that bothers me. So
Okay, so I have a natural brown sugar substitute. I thought I had some coconut sugar, which if
Okay.
I did, I would
Which
use
would
coconut sugar. But
okay.
this is called Sucrin Gold, and it's a
Yeah,
brown sugar alternative that I had. But
okay. So it's, and like I said, most alternatives have the xylitol that really bothers me.
this doesn't.
It causes GI issues, so that's good. So then 2 tablespoons of honey.
Okay, so this is local honey. I highly
Mhm.
recommend local honey. And when
Absolutely.
I do that, I use, so this is a tablespoon cookie scooper. And I like
Oh,
to
that's a great
measure
idea.
honey with this, that or nut butter. I use this, or coconut oil, anything I'm measuring that's goopy, I use this because it just comes out.
That's a great idea because it's hard to get it out of the measuring spoon. Wow, that's clever.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, that's clever, Chef Tracee. Okay, and I'm going to give a little tidbit about local honey in a minute too. Now you're going to use 1 tablespoon of rice vinegar.
Okay, and this is unsweetened rice vinegar.
Right.
Because be careful, a lot of rice vinegars have added sugar. So I always get the unseasoned or unsweetened. You have to read your labels.
So do I. Yeah, I have the same bottle you do. And by the way, I buy that by the gallon at Amazon because I can get it in a gallon. And then I refill my little bottle in the cupboard. Okay, then if you want heat, if you want the peppery, hot Asian flavor, put a lot of black pepper in it. So I said a 1/4 teaspoon. I like peppery. Come on, I was raised with spicy food, but I just can't have it. So you can use a 1/2 teaspoon if you want it a little spicy, like true Korean food would be.
I like spicy.
Oh, okay, use a 1/2.
Okay.
Okay, then a 1/2 teaspoon of sesame oil. And that should be the dark. Do you have the dark sesame oil?
I don't know.
Okay.
Toasted sesame oil.
That's it. Toasted sesame. I should have put toasted on the recipe. Yeah, toasted sesame oil.
1/2 teaspoon?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh gosh, this is going to take forever.
Oh, I took that little top off a long time ago on mine. I don't have the patience to sit there and shake it.
Yeah, well, I did that once and I went to go.
And the whole thing went, I know.
The whole thing
I did that.
So
I did that with cinnamon one time. It had that little sprinkler thing. and I went to put cinnamon in something and the whole jar went in.
I did that with
the last
cayenne pepper. I was making Indian food for the kids and I did that with cayenne pepper. And they're like,
oh God,
sweating and drinking tons of water saying, Mom, this is really hot.
So you didn't tell them, you didn't squeal.
I didn't tell them that night.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. Now you can use fresh ginger, but it doesn't give it the same flavor. So if you have ground ginger, use it.
So I love this brand. I brought the whole bag out to show you guys. I buy this brand a lot, like for the golden milk ingredients.
Yeah.
It's Anthony's organic ground. And then
they have
everything. So the turmeric, everything I get from them.
Yeah, I get from them too. And I've been to their factory. Do you know the story about Anthony? Do you know the story about Anthony's? They do they gave it back just like Bob's flour mill, Red Flour Mill. They sold the company to the employees so that they all had the incentive to really work and stay and be loyal, dedicated employees. So that's why they have never lowered their quality.
That's awesome.
Because the employees own
this stuff to try to get it to blend better, to break up.
You don't have to. You don't have to, because that screw up is nothing, because it'll dissolve. It should dissolve in the hot mixture. So now all you do is dump it in the pan.
Okay.
With the sautéed ground bison that you're using, and the onions and garlic. That's all you have to do.
Do I heat it up?
Oh yeah, keep cooking it until it thickens. You want the sauce to cook. Even though everything you put in it is okay raw, in order to make the sauce, you have to cook it and let it just gently be on a medium high, and it'll start bubbling, and then it'll start getting thick. That's when you have to adjust and then taste so that you can see. It's that easy. I mean, if we had everything that was in the recipe and we didn't have the gelatinous glue that you used. It's very simple. You just I mix all my ingredients for the sauce at once in that 4-cup measuring cup like you did. And I throw everything in, including the cornstarch and the broth. And then I keep adjusting it as far as thickness and saltiness. If it's too salty, I add a little bit more water. If it's too salty overall, then don't use 2 bouillon cubes next time. Use 1 for 1 pound of meat. But you use a pound of meat, so we use two of them. Now, what is that?
This is the cauliflower rice that I made.
Oh, good. You're going to serve it over cauliflower rice.
Put it on a platter. So what I want to tell people is that it's easy to make cauliflower rice yourself instead of buying it where it's really expensive. So all I did was take a head of cauliflower, my handy dandy Cuisinart, and I put it on the shredder. Okay. So I use the shredder so that it's more consistent, because when I tried to chop it, I would have big pieces and little pieces and I didn't like it. So I just used like the cheese shredding tool.
The cheese shredder. See, and I don't do that. I just made some last night, and I do it in my food processor, in my little Black & Decker food processor, and it rices it beautifully.
Yeah.
Just chop it in small chunks.
So I was just
I'm going to try it. Yeah, then just put it on the plate. Tracee's amazing. I'm so honored to be able to be working with her this way. I did some shows this way when I was in Ecuador, because they didn't have the proper studio. I had the herb garden. They didn't, except when I was teaching the actual chefs at the Culinary Institute. Then, of course, they had all the equipment, more than I could ever have. But I had to do a couple of these like this, and this is actually better, the way that we're doing it, because we can enjoy it. Cooking should be fun. Remember that. There's 2 things that I always say are my therapy. One is dancing. I actually taught ballroom and Latin dancing for years. And the other one is cooking, because think about it. When you're dancing or you're cooking, you can't think about anything else. You're like, am I going to screw up? Is this going to work? How does it taste? When you're dancing, you have to concentrate on your moves and go with a rhythm. So those are the 2 things that for me are the best therapy. Okay, how's your sauce doing? Is it thickening?
The only thing missing is a glass of wine.
Well, then go get it.
No.
No. Okay, so it should be bubbly and start to thicken. And for all of you in our audience, remember that it's to your taste. If you like it real thick, I like it kind of a medium thick, but I actually, she was talking about ricing the cauliflower. I actually mash the cauliflower at times too. That's my mashed potatoes. And if you haven't tried that, they're delicious as a substitute for mashed potatoes. And then I put a little bit of gluten-free flour and an egg and some panko with the leftover ones, and I make a patty, and that's my potato patty for breakfast the next day with an egg. So it's an amazing way to use cauliflower. Ricing it, or remember, you can use, if you're not watching your carbs or your blood sugar, you can use any kind of wild rice, brown rice, quinoa. The white rices have a lot of starch and they really convert to sugar right away. So if you're having problems with candida or with blood sugar, do not use white rices. I know Tracee doesn't eat rice, but I do. I eat quinoa and I eat wild rice when I can get it. So how is your sauce, my dear? Have you tasted it? Have you tasted it?
No, I will.
Is it getting thick?
It's boiling.
Okay, but is it getting thick?
No. Tastes good.
Even though it's not thick, huh?
Not yet. Maybe it'll take a minute.
It might. Okay, so you're gonna plate. You're gonna use instead of using
some of this, the potato flour.
I would, but dissolve it in a little bit of water. You can't just add it like that in a clump. You have to dissolve it in a little bit of warm water, and you'll see that it gets a nice thick sauce like you would get in a Korean restaurant.
Okay, let's try it. I bought potato starch because it's supposed to be a really good prebiotic. According
Okay,
to
that should
Dr.
help.
Mark Hyman, he says that potato starch, I think it's Mark Hyman. I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, I don't use potato for anything, so it's okay. That's your choice. And I was going to say to our members that because I have traveled internationally so much, I was very fortunate to be able to do it way back and before COVID. You know, most people go on a trip, and I traveled every 3 or 4 months internationally. That was my break. Work, you know, from 15 to 16 hours a day, and then take off for 2 or 3 weeks. And that was my routine for many years. And my girlfriends would go with me, and they all wanted to book the city tour. You know how you take a city tour and then you take a museum tour or whatever you're interested in. I always booked the cooking classes first. Didn't matter where I was. And at first they kind of looked at me like, what? I mean, 20 some years we traveled together, different lady friends that went with me. And then finally they started saying, well, yeah, I want to do that too. So included in every city that we were in, we would take a cooking class for the indigenous food. So I'm going to share all of those recipes that I've adapted with our members. I mean, from Moroccan to Tunisian to Egyptian to Mexican and Chilean and Argentinian, and I've got them all. So I'm going to share all of those because I've already adapted them and already taught them at the Culinary Institute in Ecuador. So you're all going to benefit from that. Some of the Polynesian food that's so good. I'm not real heavy on the Thai food. I have a few really good recipes, but when it comes to Middle Eastern or African, Moroccan, I mean, I loved Morocco. I was there several times when I lived in Europe, and I can still smell the aroma of the spice markets going down those old ancient streets in Morocco. So that's one place, Tracee, you would love, because it's that old world way of eating and living. You know, food is what unites all of them, and that's what should unite all of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the consciousness that we have of helping the world heal, but you know, sharing a meal with somebody that you care to share it with. My rule is if I'm let's see, if I'm with somebody that wants to meet for a meal, and the energy isn't real good, like my ex-husband years ago, somebody that you have had some disagreement with, I won't do it. I don't eat with somebody that I'm not okay with, because that affects your digestive system. So you don't do that. So don't do that.
Okay. Well, this is thickened. I have my cauliflower rice here, and that's thickened.
It did thicken?
Yep.
Okay. Now taste it again. It'll taste completely different once it's thickened. It's not the same.
It's a little hot.
Oh, hot. Fire hot? Fire
no,
hot?
like temperature hot.
Yeah, okay. So everybody that's listening, remember that I always make extra sauce. Once you get this recipe made and you love it, like I do, then make some extra. Add a little bit more water. Add a little bit more cornstarch so that you can have that extra sauce to pour over. If you're vegetarian, pour it over some steamed vegetables. Okay, put it over your potatoes. I mean, I love it as gravy on a mashed potato. And I use white sweet potatoes for mashed potatoes, but I also use the cauliflower. And I can't tell the difference a lot. I use garlic and salt and pepper. And by the time I make use of mashed potatoes with cauliflower and that sauce, you're going to say, can I have a second helping? So it's not like, oh, I can't have potatoes. So just adapt it. But once you do make it, I suggest you make some extra sauce. You're going to want it.
Okay.
Over to you, Tracee.
So what I'm going to do is I count my macros. So when I eat protein, which I eat 4 times a day, typically, I weigh my protein. Okay. So what I'm going to do is weigh out 4.5 ounces, because I'm going to guess that 4 ounces of it is going to be the meat and about 1/2 ounce might be the sauce. Okay. So I'm going to grab my scale and weigh it.
Okay. She's very diligent about that, everyone. But remember, she's an athlete. I am not. So I'm cooking a healthy way to avoid toxic ingredients and inflammation. I'm not cooking to stay in ketosis and because I'm an athlete. I should be, but I'm not.
Not yet.
That was why.
Hang out with me
No, I'm
long
going to go
enough
back.
and you never know what's going to happen.
No, I'm going to hang around with you anyway, but I'm going to start dancing again. I love ballroom dancing and all the Latin dancing. And that's how I met my first husband, believe it or not, at the Hollywood Palladium.
I'm going to
If anybody
salsa for
is,
you.
yes, you're going to salsa for me.
Okay.
If anybody is my age, they remember the Hollywood Palladium and the Lawrence Welk show. And that was rented out to us for our dance classes. It was really fun.
Fine.
Okay, what are you going to do?
Okay. Laura is a ballroom dancer. She was competitive at ballroom dancing. Okay, so I've got
I'm not competitive. I'm just social. Okay.
See it there. And then I've got some
Does it have enough sauce? Doesn't look like it's got enough sauce, does it?
Oh, okay. I'll add more sauce.
Yeah, you need to make it saucy so that you get some on the cauliflower rice too, not just whatever mixed in and you pulled out the meat. It's got to be saucy.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Nice and saucy.
Okay, now you're going to garnish it with what, hon?
Sesame seeds.
Okay.
And cashews.
Now, did you roast those first?
Oops.
Oops.
And onion.
Okay. When you roast, and onions, those are the green onions, right?
Yep. Which I love.
Okay. So when you roast nuts, especially cashews or pumpkin seeds, those type of seeds and nuts, you use them preferably in a cast iron skillet. And I know you use that like I do a lot. And just put a tiny bit of avocado oil or a little bit of coconut oil, and just a very little bit, and then just keep stirring the heck out of them until they get nice and toasty brown and that delicious aroma. But don't let them burn, because then they're bitter. And that's the way I like mine to top that off. So what else are you going to put on there? Is that it?
That's it.
Do you have a vegetable? You don't have a vegetable with it.
Yeah, I have cauliflower rice.
Oh, okay. I thought you might put broccoli or something else like I do.
No.
No.
That's good. I
Okay.
have a cup. And here, you guys, check it out. Is that beautiful?
Yeah, it's hard to see how juicy it is. Okay, come on. Give us the real deal here. So how's the sauce, honestly? Is it too salty? Is it too sweet? It's great, isn't it?
It's good. I like the honey. I can taste the honey. I think I might use only one beef bouillon cube. They're a little powerful.
Because it's salty.
Okay.
They are powerful. Yeah. Great. And in the recipe, I talked to Cynthia about it, and we put the link in the recipe so that you know where to get it. Now, you might be able to find it in your local store, but I can't. I have to get it on Amazon or buy it right from the company. But the company, you have to buy a whole box, which I did. I bought 12 because I cook so much. So remember, it's great because it was made for vegetarians. No, not beef, not chicken, veggie, and not, what's the other one? Savory onions. So it's a great way. And I will always share with you what I found that I can use, because I used to buy those. Didn't you buy those cardboard containers, those quarts of chicken broth and vegetable broth and beef broth? They're tasteless. I used to say it's like they took a pot of water and kind of brushed the chicken through, kind of like on its way through to something else, and that's all, because there was no flavor. There was no flavor. And you're agreeing that these are real flavorful. So maybe you just use one. In the recipe, I just have one. Yeah, so just use one next time. Because you had more meat. You had more meat. The bison takes a little bit more because it absorbs more.
Oh, okay.
That's why, than beef. Okay. But now that if it's too powerful, add a little bit more of the potato starch with some more water, and it'll just thicken and make more gravy, and it'll break down that depth of flavor of the bouillon.
Okay.
That's all you have to do. Just keep adding.
You know what the hardest part is?
Is it what?
Is I have to wait this in 4 hours at dinner time.
Why do you have to wait?
Because I'm not hungry.
Why do you have to wait? Oh, you're not hungry now. Okay. So I hope your family likes it. You're going to have to let us know how they like it.
Yeah.
But you do like the sauce.
I'll send the cashews for them, okay?
Okay, yeah, roast the cashews. This has been so much fun, and I hope that all of our members appreciate the fun we've had, and thank you for bringing us into your home, and look forward to a lot more international recipes from WoW Can Cook. This is Tracee and Dr. Gloria. God bless.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.